Good afternoon, everyone. I'm really excited to be here. Last year I was sitting in your guys' seats, and now I'm excited to be here talking about what I love to do. Public speaking is an interesting thing for me, so I always kind of start off with a joke. So if you guys don't mind, I'm gonna just go at everybody. So there was a lion and a cheetah. They were racing. The cheetah won. The lion said, "You cheetah." The cheetah said, "You lion." Thank you. That always makes me feel better. Okay, humor makes the world go round. Okay, so welcome to Humanity in the Workplace. Now, I have culture and tribe, and we're gonna dive into a lot of different things here. So just pretend you're driving a shift and know you gotta move some gears with me. So I love humans, and I also like humanity. And so today we're gonna talk about how those intersect and really focus on growing a culture within a startup. So I love cultural anthropology and learning about cultures. When you see my last name, how many of you guys thought it was Fontes? Don't feel shy. Anyone? Fontes? Anyone? Okay, it's actually Portuguese. So So I love starting cultures because that's just my lifestyle. My husband is Portuguese. We have a biracial blended family, and I speak Spanish. So we are just very much in tune to the different cultures around us. The culture that I'm studying right now specifically is around the Pacific Islander culture. How many of you know about Pacific Islander, New Zealand, Samoa, Tonga? Okay, beautiful. So the video I was gonna show, and maybe we'll be able to watch it later because it sparks up some really great emotion, is the haka. How many have heard of the haka? Awesome, this is so good. Okay, so how many have actually seen the haka? Okay, so then we'll just play off of that because right now the video is not working, but we'll go with that. Can anyone shout out anything that they thought about when they saw the haka? Any emotions, observations, any feelings? Go ahead and shout them out. Intense? Was that from you? Yeah. Who said it? You, thank you. Someone said aggressive. Perfect timing. Anyone else? Yes. Pride, beautiful, thank you. Anyone else? Soul, I like that one. Nice, thank you. Teamwork, beautiful. Thank you for that because we're gonna talk about that a little bit more into this discussion. Anyone else?
Passion.
Who said that? There you are, awesome, that is amazing. Anyone else? Yeah, there we go. He's about to do the haka right now. We don't even need the video. Tradition, beautiful, thank you for that. Go ahead, something in your stomach, Phil, say it. Say it. Who said? Cathartic. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Because they're like screaming and you're not usually allowed to do that.
Yeah, and, okay, so beautiful. So we're gonna watch it really, you had something.
I was just gonna say it's intimidating when the All Blacks do it.
You know what? So are we playing it?
No.
Okay. Thank you for that because we're gonna, after we watch this video, maybe some of you that have not seen the haka or have seen it before might have not remembered how it is. We're gonna talk a little bit about it, but everything that you guys said is 100% like legit and correct. So take this journey with me as we watch this haka. How many have seen that one specifically before? A few of you guys. Okay, beautiful. Now we can go to my original question. What emotions, what feelings did you sense when you watched that haka? Go ahead, shout them out. Someone said inclusion, love, sentimental, presence, loyalty. Somebody said pride. Okay. Anyone else? Culture. Thank you for that. If you have anyone else want to shout out something else before I get into it. Susan? Humility. Beautiful, beautiful. Who felt that humility at the end? Right, when they embrace, and it's very common in the New Zealand culture. So let me just go back to the word intense. Raise your hand if you said intense. I thought it was over here. It was you? Okay, sorry, got my, all right, cool. Intense. So intense is exactly right. If you notice, traditionally, the haka is done by men, not women. And if you notice, a few of them, including the bride, jumped in on the action. So the energy that is felt within the culture is brought out in the haka. How many know the story of that particular haka? Okay, so I'll summarize it. So a chief had a son named Moana. You guys seen that movie? You're welcome, right? Okay, so the chief had a son named Moana, and he was going through a lot of different things as natural men do when they are going through growing up in a tribe. They have certain things approved, certain things they're obligated to do, and so this specific chief wrote this haka for his son. In this haka, you'll hear they say, "Annex, annex, annex." It means indeed, indeed, indeed. Do you agree, kind of thing. And so basically he's going through this haka and saying, I noticed that there's something going on with you. I don't know what it is, I don't know what you're going through, but I know the answer's inside of you. And towards the end, he agrees with his son, like, you can find this power. The son agrees. That's when the groom steps up, because you can't just sit there when they're doing that. You're getting married. You gotta acknowledge what is going on in the haka. And so that was the groom's response. So this haka, there's many ones. I think the All Blacks do something very similar, but this one specifically is around weddings, inclusion, war cries, certain things like that. So this specific haka really has a lot of ties into the culture that we're going to talk about today. So you guys brought up some great observations. And as we go through this today, we're going to talk a little bit about 4 main things that whether it's a culture or tribe like this or a culture in your startup or company that will tie and make everything a little bit more meaningful and deeper for you. But first, we're going to talk about chickens. Because what I left off of my bio was I'm a chicken farmer. So I own about 8 chickens. They all have names. They're not food. They're friends. And when I got them, I just thought it was a great idea to have chickens. Then I discovered that there's a cool little tie between culture and chickens. Not that they're all scared, that's not the tie. But the tie is that chickens have their own type of culture. How many have heard of the pecking order? Okay. So aside from having the pecking order, the chicken culture is very protective. So they're flightless birds. They can flutter sometimes, but they can't really escape. So they have to be very protective. So if you've ever watched chickens, you'll see them kind of, I won't do my chicken impression today, but you'll kind of see them moving around, and then you'll see them moving their heads, and then you'll have one that's kind of looking around, and then they'll go back to what they're doing, and one will go off this way. And the one that goes off this way will be followed by the other ones going off that way. And it's not like, don't leave me behind. It's like, hey, strength in numbers. But when feeding time comes, which is part of their survival, they got to eat because they have very fast metabolism. When feeding times comes, the pecking order comes in. So the smaller chickens get pecked at, stomped on. It's pretty brutal unless it's broken up. But then they know, okay, I'm not going to go in. I'm going to wait until it's over. So the culture of the chicken, I think, would be similar to startup culture in the sense of it's very protective. If I were to walk into, can someone shout out their company so I can use it as an example? Paired? Okay, so for example, if I were to walk into Paired's culture, I would get the circle, right? Does everyone make sense? They would protect their culture by any means. They'd be like, who are you? Why are you here? What do you want? Are you threatening our culture? Because this is our survival mode, correct? Has anyone else experienced that? Someone walks in, you're like, I don't know, and then they kind of got to earn their keep, move their way up the pecking order. Yeah, it happens. So culture, but the other side of the chicken culture is it's very compassionate, and this is one of my favorite stories, and then we'll stop talking about chickens because I can talk about them all day. When chickens lay an egg, has anyone ever had a fresh chicken egg before? Has anyone ever heard a chicken lay an egg? It's very intense, very, very intense. And on a few occasions, I've observed the chickens laying an egg. Now, I haven't looked at them because they like their privacy, but I've observed the thing that goes on there. Believe it or not, chickens have midwives. So they'll have a chicken that kind of hangs out while this chicken is gawking all over the place, laying an egg, and make sure that she's okay. And then another step further, they'll have a chicken that's called the mother hen or the Brody hen that will come in, and if there's fertilized eggs or not fertilized eggs, she'll come and protect all the eggs from everyone, thinking that there's babies in there, but there's not, unless it's fertilized. So the culture of a chicken reminds me a lot about startup culture, but we're gonna get back to non-chicken stuff. So culture and respect to startups is where people come to do business, or another way to put it is where humanity makes business connect or happen. That's another way of looking at culture. Most people think of it as, oh, it's the feelings, oh, it's the ping pong, or it's the events that we have. I would challenge that definition and go with something closer to this, because the things that you shouted out earlier about the haka, about what you sense, was embedded in, and is embedded in their culture. It's intense, it's prideful, it's inclusive. So we're gonna talk about the first, in respects to time, we're gonna talk about the first one that brings up a tie between your culture, which is emotion. If you can tie into the emotion of your culture, whether it's, and when I'm talking about emotion, I'm not talking about, oh, I feel good going into work. I'm talking about the emotion that how people are treated, the appreciation, the recognition in the culture. How people are emotionally affected in the culture makes a huge difference. How many have been in a not so good culture? And the ones that raised their hands, how many of you guys felt emotionally satisfied? Thank you. You guys probably didn't see that, but nobody raised their hand. And it's true, the culture must provide that emotional satisfaction. The next one that cultures take care of, your mental, not your mental, but your mental state. And how many have felt they were gonna go crazy in the workplace? Right, we kind of all have, but it's okay. The purpose behind what is done. So I've heard a story, and maybe or maybe it's not true, but I'll tell it anyway because it brings a good contrast. In concentration camps, what they did, instead of isolating people, they made them break rocks over and over and over again. Taking away someone's purpose in the workplace is one of the most demoralizing things that anyone can do. Taking away someone's purpose in a culture renders them useless. So when you're thinking about a culture and the environment that you're in, purpose is the big key here. The next middle half of this talk is going to talk about purpose in-depthly and how you can bring that into your culture. The next one is physically. Do you feel safe? A culture is designed to make you feel safe while being able to do the things that you know you are meant to do in purpose. In the Polynesian and New Zealand culture, because they're on the islands, they utilize a lot of the resources. Everyone kind of has a job. Who saw Moana? Okay, so thank you. So you guys know the whole thing. She's like, you're supposed to be chief. Not gonna give away the movie. You're supposed to be chief, this is your purpose. And she's like, no, it's not my purpose. And then it's like, yes, it's your purpose. And there's like fight and conflict around purpose because it's a huge thing within a culture. If you can't give your people purpose in a culture, it's not gonna thrive. It's very much like breaking the rocks every single day, and eventually people are gonna be like, why am I here? And then they leave, or the culture starts to dissipate. And the last thing I'd like to bring up, now don't worry, I'm not gonna start singing or anything, but spirituality. I'm not talking about religion. I'm not talking about who do you believe in. I'm talking about the deeper connection beyond the company mission and the work that is being done. That has to touch on a spiritual basis in some way. So I sometimes work with clients, well, most of the clients that I work with, honestly, all have a very deep spiritual mission, where it's touching more than just the people that they see on a day-to-day basis. That's kind of what I mean spiritually, something that connects with their core and moves them to mounts on in. One company I work with is called Win-Win. Has anyone ever heard of that startup? It's all good, they're new. So basically what they do is they gamify giving by connecting pro athletes and influencers with fans by giving to charity. So their thing is how to gamify giving so people can win-win, the athletes win, the charities win, and the people win. They did a giveaway or a campaign where single moms or a household that didn't have another parent during Christmas came together, Toys R Us, full-on shopping spree. Now, I know it's material, but to those kids, they don't know it's material. So I like to work with companies that have a deeper mission that touch more than just the bottom line. So as you work with your startup, and as you work with your company and your culture, the spirituality piece is really huge. How many do meditation? How many do yoga? How many do meditation and don't know they're doing meditation? Okay, so bike riding is a form of meditation, swimming is a form of meditation. Those types of ways are meditation. If you can tap into those ways, you'll quickly find yourself in alignment with a culture that really ties to you spiritually. I'll get into that a little bit later, or you can meet me after. We can talk about that. Okay. So I want to just move through this pretty quickly. I wrote a book called How to Keep Your Culture from Going to Poop Emoji. And it talks about all of the things that I learned within startup culture. So I've been in startup for about 6 years, and I've seen a lot of different successes and failures, and I thought this was appropriate title for a book. So as we segue into this, the purpose, the emotion, the type of culture, the most important thing, and I put this in the middle because I think this is the most important thing and the key takeaway I'd like for you guys to listen to is how you welcome someone into your culture matters 110%. Raise your hand if you had a bad first day. Ever, at work. Anyone? Wow, you guys haven't had bad first days before? Okay, well some people have, and it really sucks. How many felt welcomed when they first joined their company? Nice. How many knows what it feels like to not be welcomed? Can shout out some feelings around that? No one knew who you were?
Like people who hired me did, but like no one else knew that I was starting today.
Okay, and how'd that make you feel?
Weird.
Okay. Would you say you had a good first day?
No.
Okay, anyone else had a kind of a interesting thing around their first day? Yes.
Make sure I didn't show up.
Oh. Did they forget or?
They just didn't go.
Okay, all right, how'd that make you feel?
I'd appreciate it.
Okay. Anyone else want to share? 3 is usually the magic number, so. Yes.
The fact of security person, I'm usually the first security hire in a startup. Mm-hmm. So everybody's always fearful. Nobody wants to know who I am. They all go,
Oh no, you got a bigger cultural barrier to dive in there. Okay. Well, truth is, if I were to invite all of you or any of you over to my home, and I said, come on over, like, it's gonna be fun, let's go have fun. And I open the door, you walk in, I'm like, all right, peace out, I'm about to go chill with my chickens. That is the equivalent of not being able to welcome your employees right. And I guarantee you that plays into a lot of what they do from that day forward. So I'm gonna quickly talk about my 5 ways to make your onboarding experience or welcome experience into a new culture for your new hire amazing. Who's ready? All right, cool, yes, thank you. All right, so I preach this, I'll summarize it, but basically what happens, you go through this interview process, you're like, oh my God, you're such an awesome company, oh my gosh, you're such an awesome candidate, we're gonna send you your offer letter, you get your offer letter, and you're like, wait a minute, what are the benefits? Like, how do I work, what do I do? And then you later find out there's no vacation policy, no 401k matching, no, you have to pay 50% of your, and. So one way to welcome is before they even start. So when you create an offer letter, create a package that pushes it out together. Most of us are entering a stage of companionship, most of us, And sometimes we have to talk it over with our partner or take our kids into consideration. So when you put together an offer for your people, I can guarantee you 60% of this will get you a signed offer. So put a package together, put some meaning behind your offer. Don't just send an offer, say, here's your salary and equity. It's like, here's some meaning behind why you should join, right? Here's some more oomph in case you forgot. Because mind you, those people might be interviewing for a couple of positions. And one company might have a flashy, great culture, and they just say yes to that, but not really looking at the benefits and what is actually offered there. And so when you put together an offer letter, think of it as a package. Does that resonate with anyone? Offer package? Okay. So no time to elaborate too much on this, but does anyone have any questions around what an offer package should look like or what the basis of this is? Okay. So the next step, I think, that is really helpful and has proven to be really great within your welcoming experience is checking in with them. How many people got a call the first day before they started? Nice. How many got any interaction before they started? A few of you. Beautiful. How did that make you feel? Throw it out. Appreciated. Prepared. Sir? Included. Nice. Anyone else? Okay, so that's one of the tips, because if you can check in with them, take time out of your day. Say they're starting on a Monday. You text them on a Sunday. Hey, how are you doing? Hope you're not nervous. Like, here's some cool ways to do this, and we're excited to see you on Monday. That changes the entire playing field for that person. How many are nervous on their first day of work? Okay, I mean, let's face it. On our first day of school, like the night before, we were like putting our clothes on and we're like trying down. We're like, Brad, you know, like we're kind of like getting into the mode of like what it's like to be on the first day. And to be honest, like humans can be intimidating. Like on your first day, it can be really rough. You can go through a lot of stress and then you eat a bunch of chocolate and then it's like, oh, it's all over, right? It's just not a good look. But if you can know that you're appreciated and prepared and included, that changes everything. And a simple check-in will help you do that. Okay, now somebody said that nobody kind of knew. Thank you for that. Get a powwow. You know, hey guys, you know, we got Brad starting tomorrow. Just want to let you know, he's a great guy. We're looking forward to bringing him on. It would be amazing if everyone just kind of knew that Brad was starting. Man, all right, Brad, cool. What's Brad into? Man, Brad loves chickens, man. He's like, oh man, yeah, that's cool, all right. We're ready for Brad. Brad joins. Hey, Brad, man, I heard about those chickens. And then there you go. That's all Brad needs that first day. Just prepare your team to know that people are coming. It's almost like when people, okay, I'll share this about myself. Don't ever repeat it. I don't really like when people just show up at my house. It's like super like, what are you doing? I might not be ready. And like, it's just weird. I'm like, don't show up. Just so I'm prepared, And so for your team, you want to prepare them as much as possible for this new person that's coming into a culture that they will be included in. It makes a lot of difference when you can include the people around you into the people that are going to be joining your company. And it doesn't take a lot. You don't need a process. This is not a strategy thing. This is a human thing. So just you can take notes if you like, but honestly, this is just basic, like you can do it tomorrow. So that's what was great. So prepare. All right. So all present. So this means, this one is a little tricky sometimes because how many people have an office where everyone comes in at different hours? Okay, so that's most startups. I'm not trying to call anybody out. I know engineers come in a little bit later. That's because they work super hard, I know. But I mean, it's, so to get everyone on the same page, right? To get everyone all present, you have to really sell the first 3 things that we talked about. You gotta let them know, hey, this is this person's only day. They ain't gonna get another day. This is the only day that they're ever gonna get in the entire life at this company. This is the only day they're gonna have. Let's all show up for this person. Who's with me? Yeah, right, let's show up. Okay, what's a great time? I told them to come at 9. Ooh, yeah, no, not 9. Like, can we do later? Okay, good point. Don't make it so early. Just have the person come in at 10:30. things are gonna be a little chaotic. At least you can try and agree that 90% of your people will show up at 9:30 or at 10:30. One thing that is observed in some startups, you walk in and like there's nobody there. You're like, are you guys closing doors? Like, okay. And they're like, no, everybody's out of the office. They're like, oh, okay. Doesn't really make you feel good. Like, show up for this person that you hired. Do you know what, okay, this is a trivia question. I don't have prizes today, but if you remember my name, I might. Trivia question. How much do startups spend on recruiting fees per person? Like, what is the percentage? Anyone know? Somebody said something. What did you say? Who said that? I can't see. Oh, there we go. 25%? Nice. Have anyone heard upwards to 33%? Okay. Startups spend a lot of money trying to recruit people, and that's just to hire someone to find somebody, not to mention if you're doing it on your own. So it makes a lot more sense for your ROI to bring more to the table when that person shows up. Because if they show up and they haven't been welcomed or don't feel included or don't feel appreciated, they're gonna hold a grudge. You might not say, no, they don't hold grudges, we have happy hours. No, they hold that grudge. They're gonna remember when they get another call from a startup and they're like, they didn't even show up. So you wanna try and include as much as you can in that first day. You wanna try and get as much as you can in that first day. It's very, very important. And lastly, this is my favorite part. So making an experience. So some of those clients that I work with, I have this thing called Welcomed. And it's a new employee onboarding thing that I put together that allows them to get the most out of their employees' first day experience. So how do I do it? I just wrap everything. No, I'm joking. But I do wrap all their stuff. So we wrap their desk, all their stuff. We make it an experience for them. We call it a red carpet experience without the red carpet expense, because nobody's trying to pay all that. You know, it's a lot of money to put into someone, and you want to be able to welcome them in the most efficient way possible. So wrap all their stuff. Go to 99-cent store and get a bunch of stuff and just throw it on their desk. Whatever it is, make a hoorah over their first day. Let them know that they just made a great decision for the rest of their life, or 5 years, and they are going to be in a great place of appreciation. So it can be as simple as wrapping their desk. It can be as simple as putting in a welcome survey to know what they like beforehand. And like, if it's Brad, like a little chicken egg carrier, that's like awesome. You know, so like you wanna just try and make it as meaningful as possible. Can anyone throw out some great first day experiences? Like maybe Hammer showed up, or like, I don't know, they had like this whole like bubble machine. No? Okay. So anyone have an experience that was really impactful for them on their first day? Ooh. Okay.
At Disney, they would show like this sizzle reel about Disney that made you feel all part of the magic.
Got you all warm and fuzzy, right? That's awesome. Anyone else have a first day experience that they thought stood out for them? Yes.
This wasn't a first day thing, but I worked for an e-commerce company that needed a dress after all of their employees.
They made a what?
They needed a dress. It was an online clothing retailer.
Ooh.
Women's clothing, and they needed a dress after you. So you always had this namesake piece and got to share it with all your friends and family once you started working there.
What was your dress name?
I think it was something about like the poet's Teflon skirt or like something ridiculous. A lot of alliteration.
Nice, nice. And how'd that make you feel?
Special and welcome and just excited to be a brand advocate, I guess.
Nice, nice. So these 5 tips, does that resonate with anyone here in the room? These 5 resonate a little bit? Okay. Put them to practice. Don't take my word for it. Obviously, I've been doing this for a little bit of time, but I can guarantee you, maybe if you just did 1 out of the 5, or you did 3 out of the 5, you'll start to see a shift whenever you bring somebody on. And contrary to what might be expressed or not expressed, it does make you feel good when you're welcomed. So that is that. Does anyone have any questions around onboarding before we get to the next piece of this? Yes.
This might be, so we could talk about this later, it's kind of an after question, but why do you think that this celebration of a new hire is maybe gone by the wayside, or is it totally new with startup culture? Like, I'm just curious your, like, the history of the employee welcome?
So if I had to give a good answer right here, right now, I would say that most people see it as a lot of work, a lot of steps. Most of the time in a startup, everybody's like this, yeah? Headphones, right? Most of the time, that's what everyone's doing. So it looks like a lot of work to be like, oh, there's another one starting. Like, how do we keep this up? You know, it's like nobody really wants to commit to that. Nobody wants to be like, okay, our values are these, but yeah, go fend for yourself. You know, like they don't want to attach themselves to that energy. So I think what happens is people just try not to do it. However, these 5 things like I went over, you can template it out. You can reoccur it. You can make it super simple. Like you don't have to go full blown. You can hire a TaskRabbit to wrap a desk for $20. They'll be like, what you want me to do? Wrap it? Okay. Like, is that it? You know, just wrap the desk. They're starting in 5 minutes. Okay. You know, like you can just, there's ways to get creative. And I think that sometimes in startup world, because we're so head down, sipping the Kool-Aid, sometimes it's harder for us to think of things that might add to our plate that are really very simple. So usually when I work with somebody, I'm like, yeah, it's really not that, how about this? They're like, oh, what? Like, yeah, it makes a lot of sense and it's very easy. So I would say that I think because it looks like it takes a lot and then they don't want to touch it or they don't have someone to allocate. How many people have HR departments in here? Okay, good amount. But HR is always busy with their own stuff, yes? They have a lot of other things to handle. So I would say, like, you know, not having someone to really turn to in those aspects or have time to possibly think of the creativity of the simplicity of it. Does that answer your question? Okay, awesome. You had a question?
Yeah, I'm self-development, and so like, it's kind of my pet peeve, but like you start and you're super excited to be there. It's like new job, your first day, and then they like hand you your computer and they're like, okay, set it up and go through these instructions. And you're like, okay, and then you're like, I just wondered if you had like thoughts about how to make that more interactive, because I feel like I see our new hires always sitting there at their desk and it's like everybody's desk has like cool stuff and their desk is just like empty and they're just like kind of plugging away and confused with these instructions. I don't know, like, is there a way to like make a fundamentally non-interactive process, like have more interactive with the rest of the team to kind of bring them in?
I'm glad that you brought that up because, of course, I have an answer for that one. So, again, like I mentioned, templated, right? You want to try and create something that's templated. Here's my idea. You guys can totally have this for free. All right, no. Create a scavenger hunt for them. Have them, because the first day, most of the time, it's either on a Monday or it's either on a Friday or sometimes it's during the week, but that even makes it a little bit more hectic. So simple answer is give them things to do that don't really involve the hiring manager as much, but gets them involved with everyone else. So that could be like, all right, Susan, Brad started like a week ago. Susan, you gotta go get the names of Brad's 8 chickens. Go. Hey, Brad, no, I'm on a call. Okay, next. Okay, go find how to filter how to make the coffee, whatever. Give them tasks to do. Give them something to engage them with the office, engage them with people. Have it already set out so you don't have to think about it. Say like, hey, we know setting up your computer is boring. You can even do a video. Wow. Be like, I know setting up your computer is boring, but check this out. You got to complete all 8 of these missions. And it involves the people around you. And then you can have your lunch. No, I mean, it's like you want to create something that is something that you can just kind of set and forget, but also know that it's going to be fun and engaging for them. Does that make sense? Does that help? Okay, cool. So any other questions around onboarding? Scanning. Okay, cool. So we're going to move into the last segment of this. And this last segment is about tough questions. So I've taken some of the toughest questions. Now, if you guys get uncomfortable, please sip water. It's okay. Like, this is going to get a little uncomfortable. I'm going to just say it. But we're going to talk about some of the tough questions that I've experienced with some of the startups and things that I've had to answer. So, and I'd like for you guys to think of your own tough questions. As awkward and as crazy as they may be, we're going to talk about them here. And my goal and my intent is to have a beautiful answer for you to give you clarity, color, and contrast about whatever you're asking. Sound good? All right, so you guys ready to go into this tough question? I don't think I wrote it up here, so we're just gonna go off of my paper. So one of the questions that I got, and part of me thinks it's between a law of attraction kind of thing. Like I mentioned, my family's biracial. My husband is white, I am black, obviously. I got this question sitting in an HR room, and the HR department was really, really concerned, and they said, why don't we have any black people in our company? I've never seen any come through in the interview. Not sure if my company is racist or unaware of the lack of diversity. How do I bring this up? So I'm like, well, first of all, you're HR. You should be able to bring up anything freely. How many think diversity is a problem today? Okay. So diversity and inclusion have been one of the hot topics going on. And I feel uniquely qualified to talk about subject. But my response to that is, have you asked? Have you brought it up? And then their response was, I'm not comfortable. Okay, well then let's talk about why you're not comfortable. Well, I don't want to seem like I'm causing a problem. Well, do you notice a problem? If you notice something and you're not comfortable about saying something, then that's the real problem, right? Then there's an issue in itself. But it might be the company just doesn't know where to start. Most companies don't want to say, hey, we need to hire more black people, we need to hire more Latinos and Latinos. Most people don't come out and flatly say that. So if you see something around diversity in the workplace, it might be your opportunity just to say like, hey, I'd love to see more diversity in the workplace. Is there something that I can help with to make that happen? Oh man, we don't really know what to do. Well, maybe we can talk to someone that focuses on that. Maybe they can come in and talk to us about diversity. What is the real reason, that we haven't engaged with diverse candidates outside of the workplace? So the simple answer to that question is more so just start with asking if you don't feel comfortable speaking up, if you guys have an anonymous way to share feedback, or if you have someone that you trust that's in a C-level or HR level position, to just bring it up. The worst thing that you can do is not say anything. So we want to create allyship and partners in the workplace around diversity, and it starts with anyone that has a question about it. Okay? So does anyone ever have that question? You don't have to raise your hand, but does that resonate with everyone in terms of diversity? Head nods are totally welcome. All right, cool. I got this other question, and it was around the CEO. And they said, our CEO drinks too much and does embarrassing things when drunk. How do we address this in the workplace? So my first answer in response to this is I've dealt with substance abuse in the past. I've seen what it does. I've seen how it interacts with different families and things like that. So I would say drinking in the workplace definitely should be curated at some point. Now, if the CEO is kind of acting up, someone's got to take the stand and possibly say something, because eventually it's not going to stay hidden for long. Yes? Has anyone ever seen anyone that can't hold their liquor? Okay. So in regards to the CEO, it's more of having a conversation when the conversation isn't live. So don't talk to him when he's drinking, obviously, or her when she's drinking. You want to bring it up in possibly a one-on-one or a anonymous survey and just say, hey, when we get together, sometimes things are a little live, or however you want to explain it, and I just want to see if there's anything we can do to not do so many things around drinking. Or possibly have a conversation with the CEO and say, hey, I know I've been working here for a while, some of the concerns have come up, I really don't want to be the one to say this, but these are the concerns that have come up, and see the response. You'll be able to tell if the CEO cares right then and there, or if there's a problem that's bigger than what you're meant to handle. And hopefully there's an HR person around. If not, seek outside guidance and figure out if this is the right place for you. Because drinking in the workplace that gets out of control and gets into a point where it's intimidating for the employees is not a really good thing. Okay? So, last question. Well, this one, another alcohol question. So, all of our events are surrounded around happy hours and alcohol and things like that. My response to that is kind of how I said previously, it must be curated. You never know where someone is with that topic, And it's always wise to be able to make it optional in the workplace and also make it to where not all of the events are surrounded around happy hours and drinking. Happy means a lot of different things, not just alcohol. So maybe getting creative with that and allowing people to know, like, this is just something that we do socially, but it's not something that is inclusive. Like, everyone has to do it. And make it optional. But maybe don't do it at a bar. It's like, oh, gotta get a drink or something, with the ice cubes or whatever to make it like, I'm not drinking. You want to try and make it to where it's inclusive. So the bulk of the events, 80% of them, should possibly not be surrounded around alcohol to make it level for everyone that's involved. People that want to drink, they'll go off and do their thing or bring a flask. Okay, so I want to just leave it open for any tough questions that you may have surrounding the workplace. You've heard some of the ones that I was asked. I think I'm fully equipped to answer them, but I'd love to give you guys some clarity on any questions that you guys might have had in the past, currently facing, anything around the workplace. Yes?
So, at risk of offending all of the devs, we all know that devs are a hot commodity. So how do you create an environment within the workplace where the other employees aren't feeling like kind of second tier?
Okay. So your question is, how do we include everyone, not just like the favorites kind of thing? Okay. So I think that is, I'm pulling up a mama story here. So I have 4 kids, and I don't really have a favorite, but I kind of do. So the thing that I do is I make sure that I'm speaking each one's language. And I kind of put them on the same playing field, but I speak it in different ways. Does that make sense? And then, okay, so one thing that has helped kind of in the company that I've worked with to kind of put everybody on a level playing field is, one, I find out what their language is to kind of be able to speak it consistently across the workplace. This is how many have heard the 5 love languages? How many knew there was a book for the workplace? Okay, so this talks about, it's very simple. You just translate your love language and put it in the workplace. It's the same thing. This is a very helpful book for putting everyone on the same level playing field. Now, second to that, I would say this would be the first thing to do. It's kind of like find out what the appreciation language is amongst your people so you can speak it unitedly, right? So all together. The second thing that I would do is I would tie in almost like, how many remember like the recycle things you got when you were a kid? It was like reduce, reuse, recycle. It's like kind of shows the pattern of like what happens to something. I would do something around that and say how everyone is connected. If one gear falls apart, we all fall apart. We're equally, united in this. We're a tribe, we're a culture. Like there's no secondary in this, else they all fall. So again, speaking that language is going to be very key, but also letting everyone know and reiterating that in a very compassionate way that without sales, without BD, without engineering, without marketing, without, none of us would be here. Everyone's role is really, now there might be some that are harder to get in, but it doesn't mean that they're more valuable. You know what I mean? And then the whole concept around welcoming will help solidify a lot of that. Does that help? Okay, cool. Thank you for that. Anyone? Yes?
What size or how many employees would you say you really need an HR person? I think maybe there's a idea like, oh, if we only hire 2 people, they'll all get along, and we won't need any HR person to like monitor things.
So I might be biased, but I think you should, if you have 2 people, if you have 200 people, you should be talking to an HR person. And you should also have an HR for your HR. Because most of the time, all of the weight of something lies on them. And if there's an issue and they're not really equipped to handle it or don't have as much support, they can go to someone else. So why you want to talk to someone at 2 people is because maybe this HR person, depending on what their specialties are, can come in and help you pattern out a roadmap for when you are going to actually need to bring someone in-house. And it's a great resource. If you guys are hiring and don't have an HR person, it might be good to just say, we want to consult with someone just to kind of take care of our people, overflock, right? Kind of look over our people, but really not get engaged in the day-to-day. So if something comes up where they have a problem, they have someone to go to. I know of a company that brings in a coach every month for their employees to come in and like talk about everything. And this coach is confidential, and then they basically go back and tell them the theme of the culture. They don't say, hey, one of Brad's chickens died, you know, you might want to watch out for that. They don't go in and get specific. They just say, you know, hey, this is the theme of what's going on with your culture. To get a pulse on it, there's really no size, you know, and if anything, having a conversation with someone that understands the elements of HR, especially around a startup, would be really helpful to know what to look for and plan for. When you're doing forecasting, when you're doing revenue projections, when you're doing product evaluation and roadmaps, you are talking with other people. Same thing, HR is around your people, not a robotic function. Well, in my opinion, is not a robotic function to make sure everything is in line. It's a function to make sure your people are taken care of. Anyone else have a tough, yes?
What do you do when a minority of employees are holding the culture hostage from the majority of employees?
Can you explain that?
Yeah, basically, like, you know, you have your so-called rock stars or your important people or your founders or whatever, and they don't want the culture to change, and they seem to have leverage, even though everybody else doesn't want it to be that way. You brought up the drinking thing before, right?
Yeah.
So like, look, we grew up with whiskey in our culture, and it's like, well, too many people just, that's not their thing. But anytime it comes up, it's like, nope, like, that's who we are. We whiskey taste every Friday.
All right, so you guys are just getting me to all my books without me having to do it at the end. How many have heard of this guy? Stan Slap. Under the Hood. Anyone ever heard of this guy? Cool name, yeah? Right? Slap? Right, okay. So this guy is actually one of my, I have so many favorite humans, so don't think I have one against the other, but he's one of my favorite humans. And he talks a little bit about culture. Now, what I particularly took away from this was something I want to touch on. You mentioned it was like the executives and co-founder, correct? That's kind of, that would be holding the culture hostage?
Not necessarily, but like, just, or the rock stars, right? Like, we're the ones that made the product that suddenly carried $5 million.
So are you talking about like a specific team?
Team or group of people.
Okay. So I'll break it down in two elements then. One, the CEO, co-founders, HR people, they are actually kind of outside of the culture. The culture is what is engaged when nobody else is really paying attention. It's the things that you guys talk about when your CEOs kind of walked out of the room. It's some of the things that happen that you don't really bring up right away. The culture talks amongst itself, and CEOs and HR people are kind of outside of the culture, kind of curating and making sure that it's taken care of. So in this book, he talks a little bit about that, and it's great, and it's a great read. Now, in terms of holding the culture hostage, I would think that there should be a way to understand a little bit more about where the root of that is coming from, because it sounds like a lack of inclusion, right? And I think that is probably a better thing to solve than holding hostage. So I would change the language around that and possibly look at, okay, hey, I want to talk about or introduce some more inclusion into this company, right? And then within that, you'll start to open up the gates a little bit around how to maneuver around a culture where it's like, okay, well, yeah, I'm not really into drinking. Okay, well, how can we include something a little bit more lighthearted, not so alcohol focused into the company? Or how can we include something that, you know, someone might not want to be an outdoorsy person? How do we include, right? So you want to use the word inclusion when you're talking about these things, and then think about what areas, because the doors of inclusion are so many. Doors to Hoshes, there's only one, there's only one door, and only one way out, one way in. But inclusion allows you to be able to see more of what the possibilities are and maybe get to the root of why that is. Are they afraid of change? Are they, are the people that you're working with kind of want to keep everything the same? And if that's the case, because I'm almost at time, personal development is huge. How many have heard of the Motivational Manifesto? Okay. I recommend this to every startup and every human that I come across. This book is so interesting, and it talks about overcoming certain barriers within ourselves. Most of the time, some of the things that create a toxic culture or a culture of non-humanity is some of the things that we're dealing with in ourselves. We take our fear-based energy, our scarcity energy, or whatever energy into a workplace, and we're so busy with what we're doing, we have no time to develop on ourselves. I would encourage everyone to kind of check out this book and see what areas resonate best with you to help with the environment that you're in. This is almost like building a boundary around the workplace for yourself. How to make sure that you're taking care of and taking care of yourself. Because at the end of the day, most of us work 50, 60 hours a week and have limited self-care for ourselves. This book is a great start to kind of discover a little bit more on how to take care of yourself. And for those that are meditating, that is a beautiful way as well, however you do it. But this is another way to kind of dive in a little bit deeper to your question. It might be something that's rooted in with them that just needs a little drawing out with possibly some personal development or mentioning of some inclusion within the entire workplace, not just a specific department. I have time for one more question. Yes?
So somebody asked a question earlier, kind of tangential. In an organization where there's disparity in pay just because there's a lot of diverse roles, what sort of things do you suggest to keep people feeling valued in an organization, maybe if they're not in the top tier of earners?
So if they're not getting paid enough, how do you, or they feel they're not getting paid enough? So I think there's a couple ways to look at this. So compensation in itself is more than just the dollar amount, right? And one of the things that I would suggest some companies do around that is create more programs or opportunities and outlets for that person. Because once they get down to money, they're kind of moving past all of the perks that you guys have already provided, right? They're kind of like, okay, I'm not getting, it's not enough. So maybe find out more about that person or a group of people to find out what they're actually wanting. Because money is usually right before people leave. In my opinion, they usually start talking about money, they're already halfway out the door. So you want to try and get it to where let me give an example. Let's say you have someone that comes in, and I'm going to use a woman because I'm a woman. She comes in and she says, hey, I've been here for a year, I'm actually thinking about starting a family. And the company doesn't have anything around family. It's like, a lot of happy hours, there's no nursing room, whatever. Her mind is already thinking like, hey, this probably is not the place for me. So naturally, it would be like, hey, I just want more money to help satisfy and balance it out. But in truth, if you were to say, okay, well, what is it that you're looking for? What programs can we kind of help assist with this transition? If you can try and build a fail-safe for some of the people that you're working with to where money does not come up and a lot of their other needs are taken care of, you can really balance that out. But it does take, again, some time to actually listen to what they want, because every individual is going to be different. Speaking their appreciation language will get you a lot further as well. So you might have somebody that's like, every year you give them a plant. So say, hey, you got this plant, yay. And they're like, oh, whatever. Their appreciation language isn't gifts. So you're kind of wasting your money. Their appreciation language is quality time. So you want to be like, if you're a CEO and you're in that position, hey, let's go take a walk. Let's just talk about stuff. They're going to value that a lot more. So in combination to trying to create a program or certain things that actually are identifying with the type of people that you're hiring and speaking their appreciation language, money will be the furthest thing. Now, of course, people need things to live, and that should be a discussion that is taken up in the interviewing process very, very early. But other than that, while you're in the thick of it, try and create guards for them or safety environment for them where they can feel like they don't need to go to money first. Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Well, that is my time. Thank you guys so much.